Hello, South Shore authors. Welcome back. Are you ready to continue exploring the ocean with me? Yesterday, we started reading Oceans and Seas, and we learned a lot of really important facts. Think in your own private head. What's one thing that you learned when you read Planet Ocean, Salty Ocean, Underwater Landscape, or Tides and Waves? What's one thing you learned when we read those first 4 chapters yesterday? Share with your class. Wow, third graders, I know I learned a lot of facts, like I learned that the tide comes in and out with the moon. Well, we're going to continue our exploration of the ocean, and we're going to focus our attention on one specific ocean in this book, Atlantic. This book was written by G. Brian Caress. And before I just dive into the book, I'm going to get myself ready to read by reading the blurb. Remember, the blurb on the back of the book gives an outline or a quick summary of what this book's going to be about. If you're trying to pick a good fit book, this is a good place to start to see if you're even interested in it. Here is the story of the mighty Atlantic. Lapping at the sandy shore, stretching from the North Pole to the South Pole, and from North America to Africa, the Atlantic Ocean is constantly changing shape and size and always traveling. It has fascinated people for ages and still does today. Scientists study the Atlantic, fishermen search for its schools of fish, artists paint it, and poets write about it. Here, the power and grace of the Atlantic Ocean are beautifully captured in G. Brian Caress's sparkling text and paintings. I'm very excited to get started. I grew up very close to the Atlantic Ocean, so I know I'm going to love it. I am the Atlantic Ocean. I began where the land runs out at the end of yards and streets and hills. Third graders, let's think about this. Who is telling the story here? In other words, who's the narrator? Remember, it says, it starts with, I am the Atlantic Ocean. Who's our narrator? Go ahead and shout it out. Yeah, the actual ocean is talking to us. How cool is that? I am the blue water at the beach, the waves, mist, and storms. That salty smell is me too. I stretch from the icy poles, north and south. I rub shoulders with North America and bump into Africa. I slosh around South America and crash into Europe. But I don't end there. The Pacific and Indian, Arctic and Antarctic are my relatives. We are one big family. Third graders, I want to point out something I'm noticing. If I go back and I read, I am the blue water at the beach, the waves, mist, and storms, that salty smell is me too. Right there, the author is using their senses, just like we talked about yesterday in reading that an author will do. They're triggering the senses to help us visualize. I can see the blue ocean in my mind, and I can smell salt when I think of it. I can hear it sloshing around South America, and I can feel the icy cold poles of North and South. It's really cool. They're using their senses to help us better visualize the topic, the Atlantic Ocean. My water doesn't stay in just one place. It travels from continent to continent. So that iceberg floating past someone's window one day will sometime find itself lapping at your toes on a warm, sandy beach. And look what the illustrator did. This whole page, this whole section is about how the Atlantic Ocean moves and doesn't stay in one place. And you can see the illustration goes in an arrow as it also mimics movement. My fingers stretch out. Bays and inlets reach far into the land. Gulfs, seas, Sounds and channels lead to me and into me. They are me. So third graders, if you don't know, bays and inlets, gulfs and seas, sounds like the one we live in, they all feed into a bigger body of water, in this case, the Atlantic Ocean. Beautiful. I am here day and night, heaving, raging, lying still, scraping away at some land and putting it someplace else. Bit by bit, my shape changes, as it has for ages, sometimes growing, sometimes shrinking, never staying still. Oh, third graders, I just had a text-to-text connection. In this part where it says that the Atlantic Ocean says that it's scraping away at some land and putting it someplace else. Remember yesterday we learned about how water can erode or take away land, just basically wash it away. Remember that house that's falling into the ocean? That's what the Atlantic's talking about now. The sun, so many millions of miles away, heats my water, which turns into clouds and storms that rain into me, and it starts all over again. The moon, so far out in space, pulls at me and then lets go. My tides go in and out, ebb and flood. So to ebb means to go away, and to flood means to crash back. So here we're talking about, just like we did in oceans and seas, we're talking about how the moon pulls the tide out, that's the ebb, and pushes it back in, that's the flood. Think about the beach being flooded with water, ebb and flood. First I was discovered, even though I was here first, and then conquered by men in big ships who named me. I've been crossed and probed, charted, studied, dirtied. Fishermen know me, they know my oyster beds and seek out my schools of fish with hooks and nets, long lines and traps. Let's see the fish, those are fish if you can see more closely. Artists paint pictures of me with cerulean, cobalt, and ultramarine, those are all shades of blue. And poets know me with their beautiful words. And here you can see some words that presumably come from a poem. It's the painter and the poet. The dancing shadow of your airplane skips over wave, with dolphins who sing and race, with skates and whales and fish that fly. Seagulls sing to me, sand and pebbles rattle and clatter, a chorus as I rush in and pull away. Rush in and pull away. When does the water rush in and pull away? Remember, it ebbs, it goes out, the tide goes out, and it floods, the tide comes in. My words crash and whisper in your ear. Don't forget I am here. I am the Atlantic Ocean. Some things about me, and here we're gonna get some extra facts. And I'll read that at the very end. But before I do read that, I wanna have a quick conversation. I want you to have a quick conversation with your teacher and your fellow classmates. Let's think about these two books, Oceans and Seas, and then Atlantic. What's the same about them and what's different? Go ahead and pause the video and talk to your teacher and your classmates about what's the same and what's different. Welcome back, third graders. I hope that you mentioned that these were both about the ocean, because they definitely were. This one particularly about the Atlantic, and this one about oceans and seas. They both give us real facts. They do, don't they? You learn real things about oceans and seas, and you learn some of those same facts and some new ones in this book, Atlantic. But what's different? This book is giving you facts. It is giving you a heading and then tells you a bunch of things about that heading. So for instance, when we read about tides and waves, we learned about how high waves can go and how the moon affects the tide. But this author, G. Brian Garas, did his a little bit different. He didn't just give us headings and then lots of facts. He created a more story-like nonfiction text. And when we say story, I want you to think of narrative. So this kind of text is called a narrative nonfiction. This nonfiction is expository. It tells us real facts about the world. This is probably the kind of book that you've been most exposed to in your classes reading nonfiction. And this is something we're going to read a little bit of in the 3rd grade, this narrative nonfiction, this story-like nonfiction text. All right, 3rd graders. Oh, I promised you I would read some extra facts about the Atlantic. Some things about me. I am not the Earth's largest ocean. That's the Pacific. But I have many miles of shoreline. Remember, the shore is where the ocean, where the water meets the land. Because of my inlets, bays, gulfs, seas, sounds, and channels. Some people think of all the Earth's oceans as one, the world or global ocean. If you were to empty me of all my water, you would find deep trenches. The Puerto Rico Trench is 8,648 meters deep. You could fit Mount Everest in the Puerto Rico Trench, and only a little bit would stick up. Wide basins and the Earth's longest mountain range, the Mid-Atlantic Range. I move about in giant currents like the Gulf Stream and the Brazil and North Atlantic currents, bringing warm weather to Ireland and dry winds to Africa. I have been around for ages. Though I am from millions and millions of years of rain, I am the Earth's youngest ocean. In the beginning, the Earth had one ocean. I continue to grow a couple of inches wider each year. What will I look like 200 million years from now? I don't know. But for as old as I am and as strong as I can be, I am in danger. What doesn't belong in my waters are chemical and people wastes, oil and garbage. Please treat me with respect. All right, 3rd graders, I hope that you enjoyed this narrative nonfiction text about the ocean. Join me tomorrow where we will learn even more facts about oceans. Thanks so much. Take care.